Welcome to the Takeoff Podcast, the go-to construction podcast for construction professionals seeking inspiration, education, or motivation for the next steps in their career. Each Monday, you'll be joined by me, Mick Donaghy, Managing Director of Gedden Executive Recruitment and a respected name from the industry. A construction leader, a business owner, or someone in the thick of the action. The whole premise of this podcast is for you to get something from it. An idea, a connection, a mentor, whatever it is. I hope you get it, and I hope you enjoy the show. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Takeoff Podcast. This week on the show, I'm thrilled to be joined by Alberto Fernandez. Alberto is an MRICS chartered quantity surveyor and senior construction leader with more than 15 years of experience across major commercial, sports, digital infrastructure, and large-scale developments throughout Spain, Australia, and the continent of Europe. Currently, Alberto is a senior cost engineer at Amazon, leading complex procurement and cost strategies for one of the world's largest, most influential organizations. Prior to this, Alberto has experience working internationally, having held the role of associate at WT Partnership in Australia, giving him deep exposure to global delivery models and high value capital projects. Alberto is one of the most unique guests on the Takeoff podcast, as he's had exposure working on projects that many football fans throughout the world could only have dreamed of, namely working for FC Barcelona, where he served as quantity surveyor on some of the most iconic projects in the world, including the Camp Nou redevelopment and the Johan Cruyff stadiums. Alberto has a passion for digital infrastructure, namely integrating artificial intelligence in how we cost, design, and deliver major construction projects throughout the world. Alberto, thank you so much for being a guest on the Takeoff podcast. Do you mind giving us a little bit of an introduction to who you are and what you do? I never feel like I can properly do it justice.
Thank you, Mick. Yeah, it was quite a good introduction actually, but I always like to explain that my early days in construction were working for general contractors. So the first company that I worked for was a family-owned business, a small general contractor that was doing even developments by themselves. So that was a really good experience because I do remember the owner of the company, who was a laborer himself, so he was building houses by himself with his bare hands. And he was explaining to me, and he was making me go into the site and actually start aligning all the dry walls or the brick walls, and try taking some levels to make sure that everything was aligned, that the door frames were in the proper position. So I think that part of my career was one of the most important because it gave me the insights of what is actually happening in a construction site from a
Mm.
very detailed level. So how you tight the rebar, how do you install the bases underneath the rebar, how you separate the rebar from the molds on the pillars and the columns on the wall. So that was a really good insight. um, After that, it came the big crisis in Europe. So there was no jobs in Spain, basically for a just graduate person who was looking to find his own future. I tried to be a freelance for a while, but then I decided that was my moment to go away and trying to improve my English because I had a very basic English level. So I moved to Australia for a gap year, learning English, trying to have an international experience. And then after that, I went back to Spain, working for major contractors, part of the ACS group, one of the biggest in the world. Um, I worked in total for more than 10 years on the general contractor side, on the builder side. And after that, I discovered the role of the quantity surveyor. And this was tying a lot of nodes that I was looking for. Like to me, construction economics was really, really important.
Mm.
And in Spain, when you're working for a GC, you are doing mostly all the roles. So you are part planner, part quantity surveyor, part site manager.
Mhm.
You are even talking with the truck drivers to bring the concrete to the site. So you're doing a little bit of everything, right? Of course, procurement. But I've always have to say that um, doing the quantity surveyor part was the part that I liked the most during my career. So yeah, I did a master's in quantity surveyor in Spain. The first edition that was released in Spain actually and was approved by RICS. So I went for that. In there, I met who was later on my manager at FC Barcelona. And just because of the performance I was giving on the masters, he offered me the job. Uh, I would start working for FC Barcelona as junior quantity surveyor, even though I had 10 years experience in construction already. Um, my role evolved, and I did quantity surveying, a little bit of project management as well within the club. Um, and after 3 years, I pursue more senior position. So it's where I started getting the RICS, going for senior level. Then I joined Amazon because of the global exposure. So that was pretty good because it allowed me to work in projects around the globe. So I've been working in projects in the UK, in Germany, in France, Italy, Poland, KSA, Australia, Japan. So that was
Wow.
fantastic having the opportunity to see how different countries operate the same
Mm.
industry, which is the day and the night is completely different from one side to another, right? And
Wow. That's
it's
an incredible story, Alberto. I mean, I love that, and I'm maybe I'm going to unpack those 15 years that you've maybe spoke about. Like, how did you end up, I guess, getting into the construction industry? What was it that maybe motivated you pursue a career within construction?
that was a pretty funny story actually because I was in the high school and I was not yeah, I had no idea what to do. So the only person related to construction within my family was my grandpa, who was a bricklayer.
Mhm.
So it was not actually any family business or anything like that. My dad is lorry driver, so nothing to see with that. And a friend of mine, his dad is it's a role that we call it technical architect here. It's from Spain. It's nowhere else, but basically it's a mix of construction manager, QS, planner, so a little bit of everything. And the funny thing is that he had a boat, so I wanted a boat. And I said, okay, if that's a way to get a boat, let's try to do that.
I love that.
So that's how I went for my technical architect degree, which is a construction engineer basically. And yeah, this was the first motivator. But when I started studying, I discovered something that was amazing to see how buildings are being built, how they grow up. It's something unique.
Amazing. So that I guess that sort of technical architect degree, you say it's quite similar to like a construction engineer, construction manager, I assume. So,
Right.
what was it like then once you leave university and you mentioned your own sites? Looking at like drywalls and different types of construction methodologies, but more getting your hands dirty. What were those first few years like?
It was a mix of frustration and emotion, I will
Hmm.
say. Um, Emotion, because you are learning things every single day and you see the difference between the books and what's the reality of a construction site, which has nothing to see. So the frustration side is you have to work really, really, really hard and extensive hours to fully understand what is being in a construction site. And at the same time, you're coming from a uni, clean environment, white collar job, and then you get your hands dirty. You go back home with your shoes full of concrete, right? With your pants full of concrete stains. So um, it was not what I was expecting, but at the same time, it was motivating, saying, I can manage that. I can be the person who can actually make these drawings become a building where people can have their life or their business, or I don't know, enjoy a party or a nice soup or whatever.
Because that's something that you mentioned at the beginning, Alberto. You mentioned how those sort of formative years, at the early stage of your career, were quite important to you. And obviously nowadays, say someone is studying quantity surveying, they'll maybe move into a quantity surveying internship, or maybe someone's doing a project management, they'll do project management internship. And so it can be, they may never get that exposure to other elements of construction. Maybe those days where you say, you have to be the site manager, the day where you have to maybe be the accountant. What were those, first first experiences like, where you maybe had to do something that you weren't maybe expecting to do, to be the laborer, to be the site manager, to be the project manager, what was that like?
As I said, it was a really weird feeling. I think that, so having the perspective that I have right now, I will recommend to every single person who's going to have a work in construction management or project management or quantity surveying to have, I will use the American terms here, have like an extracurricular
Mhm.
activity, and engage with GCs, try to stay there, try to
Mhm.
understand what is on site, try to have, like, I don't know, an agreement with your uni and that builder to allow you within a safe environment, like walking the site and supporting the GC by doing measurements, by, I don't know, taking health and safety reports or something like that, because this will bring to all these people the knowledge of the detail of things.
Mm.
Because if you are costing a project and you don't know what's the difference of working on a ground floor versus working in a 25th floor, how can you cost that properly, right?
Mm. So it's important here, because you have that lived experience. You understand the different nuances within each setting. So it allows you to bring more detail to what you do now.
Exactly. You can do a bottom up calculation instead of just start guessing and doing something more top level, right?
Mm. And so, talk me through. You mentioned, obviously, when after those first few years, Spain and Europe and UK, global. We had the global recession at that time, and I know Spain had, it was particularly impacted. So, you know, what was that like mentally to go through that, and then obviously decide, I want to go and maybe improve my English, improve my communication skills. Talk me through that.
It was really impactful from a mental level, because when you are young, you are in your 20s, you finish your degree, you're thinking that the wall is yours. That's the feeling that you have when you have finished uni. Reality is, you know nothing. Companies are looking for experienced people, especially when the hard times are there. They are looking for someone that is 100% ROI, that I pay you, I don't know, 2 grand per month. I want these back on a weekly basis.
Mm.
So obviously, for someone that has just finalized the units, That's not possible. So you have, from my point of view, you have two options. You have the options of staying at home, and you have your parents if you're lucky, and they can support you, and then you just wait till time comes. I'm not like that. There is something that we use a lot at Amazon, which is bias for action, which
Mhm.
I love as a principle. And I was like, I need to do something. I cannot be the one waiting. If I don't do something, things won't fall from the sky and come to me with huge salary packages and nice benefits and nice experiences and nice projects. So I spoke to one of my friends who just came back from Australia as well, doing a gap year, and I asked her, "Hey, how's that? How what are the opportunities down there?" I said, "Listen, if you want to go there, have experience, have a casual job, bartender, whatever, go there, go there because you will improve your English, you will have a nice international experience, you will see the world. So from a personal growth perspective, it's going to be only beneficial for you."
Mhm.
And 3 days later, I went to my parents and said, "Guys, I'm going to Australia in 2 weeks." They were like, I'm single child, so they were quite
Like
shocked
they're
about it.
devastated.
So yeah, and this is what it is. I just went on a plane and flew 27 hours to Sydney. I landed in there, and as soon as I landed, I was doing, okay, what are the things that I have to do? Like, I don't know, buying a phone, getting a bank account, I don't know where I'm going to study because I was with a student visa. And then what are the restrictions for working, and start looking for bartender jobs because it was the easy thing in there.
Awesome, awesome, and obviously you speak incredible English, so it did a lot of it did good for you, you know. So when you were out there, obviously, you mentioned, I mentioned in my intro that you end up spending another year or two in Brisbane. So you picked up great communication skills. Tell me about that sort of experience of working in Australia then, and obviously learning to communicate better, because I think the communication aspect is so important within
It is.
construction, and it's something that I think is going to become more and more important as time moves on. So as someone who's literally uprooted themselves and moved to the other side of the world to improve their communication skills. Talk me through that.
Yeah, so at the beginning it was not easy because even if I was doing some English lessons in there because I wanted to get the IELTS certificate, the reality is that when you are within a non-native English speaking environment, you end up kind of living in trenches and silos, and you only speak, I don't know, Spanish or Italian or whatever. So I was trying to get out of that 100%. Okay, so I was trying to get out of my comfort zone every single day. So one of the things that I did was moving to a house in, obviously, Bondi at the beginning in New South Wales, so where all the immigrants we go. And I was making sure that I was living with only native English speaking people. So I was living with a Kiwi, I was living with a guy from Bondi itself, and I was living with a Irish guy who was also in construction. So I was making sure that every single morning when there was the breakfast time, I was with them.
Hmm.
I was listening to them. I was trying to speak with them, even though if I was not feeling as comfortable as I'm feeling right now. But that's you need to challenge yourself. Otherwise, you don't get in there. And I think that was the thing that helped me the most, actually.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I've got a friend at the moment, and he's traveling around South America just because he wants to improve his Spanish. He's literally in remote islands off the coast of Colombia, and he's immersed himself. And he looks like Aquaman. He's got hair the whole way down his back. He's backpacking, and he's in his mid 30s. I'm jealous of him in many ways, but I love that. And I think it's really important. I think languages as well enriches your life. That you
Yeah.
can speak in so many different different formats and communicate with so many different people. But you decided to come back to Europe then, Alberto, and so talk me through what that was like whenever you decided to move home.
So I was on my 27s at that time, and I was feeling that it was the time to settle up a little bit, and growing up personally and start thinking long term rather than enjoying the life in there and living the day. I got an offer from a big builder from the ACS group in Spain, and for start working in mid, I will call it right now, mid-sized projects. And I said, listen, that's my opportunity. Let's go back to Spain. Let's start building up the skills that are needed. And then at some point, when I'm senior enough, I will try to go back to Australia. Um, and this is what I did. So basically, keep working for builders for quite a few years, building up my skill set and learning new things. And yeah, till there, got into the QS world, joined FCB, and keep going from there.
What was it about quantity surveying that you felt resonated with you, Alberto? You mentioned the construction economic side, but what is it that pulled you and drew you into that I guess niche?
So there was something that naturally happened to me that when I was doing the measurements on my site manager role, um, I was learning the building. I was understanding everything that was in there, and it allowed me to manage more accurately the entire building, like the different packages, when each package needs to be tendered, what are the different components. So I was understanding the detail of the building, and I was feeling really really comfortable with that. It's something that I was enjoying actually. And I didn't know that QS was a role because it hasn't been a role in Spain since, I would say, 10 to 15 years ago,
Hmm.
and right now it's like not very very formalized, so there are not many members of the ICS in Spain either, right?
Okay.
So yeah, I got into that kind of casually, I would say. But yeah, I discovered the role. I seek for some information, and I saw that yeah, that was something that was interesting for me, and just I jumped straight to that.
And so it's obviously a career move that's changed, the trajectory of your life in many ways, Alberto. It's allowed you, to obviously to get that incredible opportunity with FC Barcelona. It allowed you then to move again overseas. So I guess with the degree course, you decided to do a master's, and some
Yes.
people will be listening to this who may not have any. Maybe they, for example, they've done a construction management degree or they've done a civil engineering degree. What did the degree teach you? And you mentioned it was obviously RICS accredited. So what did it do for you to maybe take your career to the next level?
it it gave me several things. So first of all, and this is something that everyone should take from the masters that they are doing, it's contacts. Okay, so get out there and get to know the people that you are working with, okay, or you are studying with. This will open you many many doors. You said that before, so it's about communication. So, and especially nowadays with the digitalization world that we are having, as good as better as your communication skills are, the better position you will be. So that was one thing. um, the knowledge that I had from being part of the GC world, and being also as well part of this technical architecture engineer role, it also allowed me to go into the details of everything. So fully understanding what a bill of quantities may have, or how a unit rate needs to be built up from bottom up, like how many hours of labor are required to actually install a square meter of brick wall. Does
Mm.
it make sense? It doesn't. And these these assumptions are more or less applicable everywhere. It doesn't matter if you are in Australia, if you are in Germany, if you are in Spain, the amount of hours that you need to actually install a drywall, it's similar. It's similar. You will have more safety measures. You will have less safety measures. You will have additional people for site implementation. That's fine, and this is very unique from every single site. But the actual working hours, the actual material required for building the same system in every single region in the world, that's equivalent. That doesn't change much.
No, that's very true. That's very true. I've never actually thought of it like that way. There's two things I really want to speak to you about, Alberto. One of them is obviously working on FC Barcelona, and we were speaking offline there, and I thought it was quite funny. But you mentioned you're not actually an FC Barcelona fan, is that right?
No, I am not. I'm a Espanyol fan.
So what was that like working on Barcelona's football stadium?
So it was so funny. Actually, it was really funny because everyone in there, or almost everyone in there, was Barca fan. I was kind of the only rare beast in there, not being
The
Barca
black
fan.
sheep.
Yeah, the black sheep. And I was also asked about that during my interview with FC Barcelona. Like, oh, and you will be working for Barca. You should be a Barca fan. I said, listen, I am not a Barca fan, right? I am not that. I'm a Spanish fan. I have my season ticket pass.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, I'm not gonna change that. I'm gonna use my Barca payroll to pay for that season ticket. So the lady that was interviewing me was laughing about it. I got hired, so good news.
Yeah. Yeah,
Some
that's awesome.
I did something good. And every time that Barca and Espanyol were playing, people were saying, "Okay, Alberto, you're gonna lose," and we have been even relegated to second league, right? So we were
Yeah.
not in the best time. And also another funny thing is I had a very mental problem in there because at that time one of the bonuses that you were getting, it was not person objective dependent, was related to the results of the first team. So if
Oh.
Barca was gaining titles,
Yeah.
I was getting additional money. So I wanted Barca to get more titles, but at the same time I was like, I don't want them to win because I'm
Yeah.
not Barca fan.
Yeah. Wow. That's a cool a bonus scheme. I like that. What obviously working on such a massively important project, a very very influential project. I know that the Barcelona fans are very patriotic. They're very inspiring. What was it like working on such a big project? At that point in your career.
To me, it was one of my best work experiences of my life. It was extremely demanding because the project was short in time, it was big in investment, and it was huge in intensity. I remember days, well, weeks, leaving my house at 5 a.m., which for Spain is like the equivalent in Australia at 3:30 a.m., something like that. Don't coming back to my house till 9, 10 p.m., working in cause scenarios or going to the site and dealing with the GC, pushing the GC Monday to Sunday to make sure that the works were done properly, working with the architects to make sure that the design that was presented during the public competition was respected at all times, but was within budget. So it was really, really challenging, but I do not regret any single minute invested on that project. And I can
Oh,
tell you, I worked, yeah, limitless hours. It was just insane the amount of time that I invested on this project. And I will do it again, honestly.
why? That's a question I want to ask because I often, I wrote a post about this yesterday and it sort of went kind of viral about, you say, when you have, say, if you're in your 20s or early 30s, and you maybe don't have the commitment at that point in time, maybe like a large family, or an aging parent, or something like that. you know in my opinion, that's the time you can commit. That's the time you can really learn and grow, without distractions, in some ways. And you mentioned intensity, a lot of demand, a lot of hours. So why is it that you got such enjoyment out of it, Alberto? Was it because you were growing?
I think there are multiple factors to that, to be 100% honest. I think that generation wise, this is changing. So I do remember my father working more hours than I did. Probably my daughter is going to work less hours than I'm working. I think that this is very related to the generations and how we grow up. Um, the other part, which is one of the most important factors to me, is the love and passion that you have for your job. If your job, the only care that you have for your job is the method to have a regular income, then yeah, you don't care about these things. You just want, 9 to 5 job. That's fine. But then you have to accept that businesses will treat you as you are treating businesses, right? So if you want to go to the next page, to the next level of your career, and you are a very ambitious person and you wanna go up, go up, go up, go up, um, or you are extremely efficient, extremely good on everything that you are doing, and you can invest 9 to 5 time, or you have to work harder than anyone.
Mhm.
Okay, and I always like to put here, for the ones who like football, this is like Ronaldo and Messi. So Messi had the talent. Okay, he was almost effortless in the field. Okay, you were seeing Messi just walking around, and
He was an artist.
so yeah.
Mhm.
But Ronaldo was someone that was not didn't have that nature on him. He was not the one that is the most talented person. So he worked really, really hard every single day of his life, and he become compatible to a guy who has this on his nature, right?
Mm.
So you need to see yourself who you are. Are you Messi? Can you afford doing that? Maybe you are. That's fine. Good for you. Happy for you. But I think that in this world, we need to be more like Ronaldo, someone that works on a day-to-day basis as hard as we can to reach the point that we want.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, the Messi analogy is, they're very, very special characters. There's never going to be a lot of them, maybe one in every team, but certainly, the methodology, the mindset of Ronaldo is something that we can all learn from, and work through. And you mentioned, obviously, the passion and love for construction, and that's something that I'm always nearly a bit jealous of, Alberto, because in construction, in many ways, if you're building a house, you will see the end result. It's a house. You're building a stadium, so you see the stadium. In my job, you don't necessarily see that as easy. But
Yeah.
what's it like now to have contributed a large portion of your career to that project, to see that coming to fruition, and that being broadcasted across the world?
Yeah, it's something unique. It's something unique. Every single stadium, but it doesn't matter if it's Barca or if it's a regional stadium in Southeast Queensland. It doesn't matter. It's something. It's type of building that it will actually bring joy to everyone that goes in there. Nobody
Mhm.
goes to stadium saying, "Yeah, I have to spend here 3 hours, whatever." No, you when you go to stadium, you just go with the best endeavors. You want to enjoy whatever is in there. You want to have fun. You want to show to your child what is happening in there. You want to share moments with your dad in there. So it's a type of building that for me it's always bringing joy and also legacy, because this goes beyond generations, right? So
Yeah.
that's why these type of buildings are extremely special for me. Obviously, Barca has another level of exposure and magnitude compared to absolutely everything else. Uh, but every single one of these venues needs to be treated as a treasure, because it are the stories that are these are the stories that are going to be built in there, right?
Yeah. And you know what? People connect with stadiums. I think in a way maybe that's different from a typical building. Because within stadiums you're creating memories. And I think of my team that I follow is Chelsea, and we have a big rivalry over the years with Barcelona. And I can think of 15 years ago, the goal that Ronaldinho scored in the last minute against Chelsea to put us out of the Champions League. And you think about these moments, and that's what a stadium does. It's a collection of moments. So you
Yeah.
have this real connection to that stadium. So I think it's something quite unique in terms of someone's construction career to get to get that access to be able to work on something so unique.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. It's as I said, it's something different. It's the generation of these memories, as you mentioned, and it's something that you can explain to your child, and it's gonna be permanently living in there. Okay, because right now is your moment. Then with your son, you're gonna be there, or with your daughter, you're gonna be there in X years time. You will spend. You know what? I was one time here. I
Yeah.
lived that. That was awesome. I was just jumping around. And at some point, your son or your daughter will explain to their child, listen, my dad, your grandpa was here
Yeah.
for that. And this lives in eternum, right? And that's what brings the magic to this type of buildings.
So one thing I want to speak to you about, Alberto, is artificial intelligence and how that is impacting construction and how that may impact construction in the future. And so it's something that's on, I guess the tip of everyone's tongue at the moment. Artificial intelligence, and it's being ingrained into everything that we're doing already. Whether you're maybe looking at an email on Google or Gmail, or whether you're picking up something on Microsoft Word. There's AI that's starting to get built into everything that we do. So how do you think AI is likely to shape construction, maybe in the short term and the long term?
So there are several points of view. I do think that there's an AI bubble. Yes, I think it is. I think that right now every single construction or every single business manager is saying we need to leverage AI. We need to leverage AI. Okay, what does that mean? Does it mean we every time go to ChatGPT and ask about the rate for ceilings, the rate for whatever? Do we use that only to improve our grammar on Word? That was existing already. Okay,
Mm.
this is not AI. You need to have AI strategy. So construction has always been a very traditional industry. We have seen this with BIM. There's a lot of people that are a lot of companies that are still reluctant to use BIM. BIM needs to come, from my point of view, more from the developers and understanding that this model can be used for facility management, for example. And if this is being also leveraged with AI, the potentiality of those models is incredible. But how can the question to me is, how do we use AI in our construction businesses? So to me, AI, generative AI, better said, because AI has been existing for a lot of time, like the recommendations that you get from Spotify or whatever. But generative AI allows companies to build tools for themselves. You don't need to stick to an international software that is adapting to everyone's need.
Mm.
No, what's your need as a business? What's your need as a construction business? So, for example, I don't know, um, my BD people are going to this event, this event, this event. We got those slides. What are the projects that we need to extract from those slides? So basically, you can easily build a tool because you don't need IT people right now. You can actually use one of the public tools that we have and say, okay, whatever tool, I need you to build me the code to create an app that can translate slides into this format of table. And then you can see, okay, another app that is transforming this type of table in this format of Gantt charts, whatever. So in two single movements, you can actually translate slides to a Gantt chart that can actually show you the rollout of different projects that you have been seeing on a conference, for example. Okay. Or I don't know, for example, for your business, it may happen as well. So you are interviewing hundreds of candidates a year. So how can you follow up those candidates? You can create a database that explain you all the movements that this person has been doing across the life. And you can see, okay, this candidate is someone who is jumping around every year and a half or every 2 years, or these are long-term people. And you can have this type of analysis. What the way that I see AI is that every single company will start working on their own AI capabilities, having their own AI tools that satisfy their business needs. Okay. And as much data as you have to feed these tools, the more powerful this company is going to be.
How do you think, you mentioned at the beginning, construction is quite traditional, and you mentioned BIM it hasn't maybe been fully integrated and maybe utilized as much as it should have been. I remember when I first started recruiting back in 2025, so 2012, so it's 13 years ago. In Ireland, buildings had to be compliant with BIM integration, over a certain level. I think it was 20 or 30 million. And so, it's been around a long time. And as you mentioned, AI has been around a long time. And so this is a new, as you say, generative AI is very, very different. But how do you think construction companies, traditional, say, GCs, main contractors, how do they integrate it, and what are the benefits of integrating it for them?
So if you want to use the beam model example, what's a beam model actually? So it's no other than a collection of data that represents the shape of a building. Okay. So nowadays, with the tools that we have, you can actually say, take an image, take a snapshot of a footpath, for example, and explain to your very own large language model, okay, LLM, which is basically the database that you're going to use for that. So you can explain, this is a foundation. Find me in all these drawings, in all these models, what is a foundation, okay? And AI can extract all these elements and say, okay, what information do you want to extract from this path foundation? Okay, I want the amount of rebar, I want the volume of concrete, I want the surface of each one of the faces for the formwork. Can you extract that for me? And we can, GCs, quantity surveyors, project managers, we can all speed up this project analysis by leveraging AI. What's the point here? The key here is having the right people teaching the AI, because the AI is like a junior in your organization. So AI knows nothing if you don't explain AI. You cannot use generative AI tools to do very specific jobs because it won't be as accurate as you are expecting. How do I see this in a few years? So as I said before, I think that every single company will have their own AI tool, okay, that is going to be framed with their own data, saying, okay, so imagine that you have a business in Brisbane. Okay, So all my buildings in Brisbane has this cost structure. Perfect. Then if you are teaching to the AI that that element is a pad foundation, that element is a pile, that element is a column, in a few interactions, few can be hundreds, can be thousands, um, that AI tool will learn that that element, that graphical representation with that data that is included in Beam, will mean that that's a foundation, that's a column, and then assign it automatically to a cost group. So basically, you can have a bill of quantities made automatically out of AI.
Is that
Okay,
a good thing or a bad thing?
that's the key question of it. It's a good thing for business efficiency. So if you're looking for ROI, this is something that you will be leveraging as soon as possible. Long-term thinking, I'm really worried about the people who is right now at uni who are in junior positions, because the ones that we are in senior level at the moment, we have been learning that the hard way. We have been measuring buildings, we have been going through all the drawings. So how a person that has never ever measured a drawing and has seen 25 buildings in all his career or her career, can understand if the measurements are good or wrong. Okay, and this is the problem that we will be facing. So to me, companies right now should be having a double investment. So and I see more companies becoming schools, like the old time business type, where you were growing inside a business and you were making yourself inside that business. So basically saying, okay, let's invest in people, and let's see, we will have AI. This is true, we will keep using AI. A senior person, we will be reviewing I will be reviewing the models, the outcome of the AI, because AI makes mistakes. It's like a junior.
Yeah.
Okay, it's what it is. It's not perfect, and we should not expect it to be automatically perfect from day one, because this is not going to happen. So you will have someone senior training the AI, but at the same time, you should have projects where juniors can do the basic work to learn on the job,
Mm,
because this is the what the junior should be doing, should be learning on the job, because in uni they learn nothing.
mm,
Okay, so learn about measuring, learn about going to the site, learn about talking, calling contractors, subcontractors, understanding the rates. Okay, and this work, and this is the important part of AI. If we want to have long-term businesses that are not going to be dying and relying solely on AI, we need to strengthen the trust and the career of the junior persons that we have in our companies. Otherwise, I don't see a bright future for the construction specialist.
mm. It's very interesting, isn't it? Because AI as well, there's obviously a race, so there's so many companies that are spending, billions, advancing their own AI models and language models. And you wonder where that could be, where that could be in 5 years. We're seeing, some of the stuff that Gemini is coming out with recently with the nano banana, the
Yeah.
the imagery that and videos that it can make. It's phenomenal. And then I'm sort of thinking, if I was, say, for example, an advertising company, would I spend millions on a certain individual that you're going to have to pay to do modeling, or can you create these people, online? It's very, very interesting how it's all going to develop out over time.
Yeah.
I I'm someone who does believe in young people and graduates and those coming through. I think if you spend the time with them, that will and invest in them. I think that's really important, and I think it's really important, as you say, for the future of construction, because if we don't do that, we are having so many great people retire and get to that end of their career,
Yeah.
that we already have a bad resource problem. So we have to think of ways of developing that.
And that's the point, because right now companies are thinking on juniors about the midterm return of investment. So you're thinking someone that, okay, today that person is reading drawings, doing measurements, and in 3 4 years time that person will be doing cost estimates itself. um, Problem is this will happen with AI, and what a 3 to 5 years investment is now being spent on a junior person, AI will be doing that job.
Mm.
AI can do that job with no problem. So now companies need to think about juniors as a 10 years investment.
Mm.
Okay. It's like, okay, I want to train that person. I think that resource is really going to bring value to my business for not only the hard technical skills like measurement or costing or whatever, but what you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, like communication skills, how this person is going to represent me. And I see companies creating schools and saying, I don't know, you have MBM school, you have WT school, you have ACOM school, and these companies investing on young talent to make sure that they grow up professionally with the principles that are aligned with the company. And
Mm.
in 10 years' time, they can represent the company as business owners and then go out in there, sell projects, talk to clients, being very knowledgeable, relying on AI 100% because AI is here to stay. It's not going to blow up tomorrow. But AI needs to be used to facilitate our work, not to um, replace our work. Okay, so it will be replacing part of that. That's 100% because it can be automated. Okay, but we need to find this balance, and probably we'll need less resources to do the same job. This is going to happen. I'm not going to lie. AI it's going to eat a lot of jobs, but we need to evolve our industry to coexist with AI, whilst at the same time we are providing, which is the most valuable thing in construction to me, which is basically providing this expert knowledge, providing trust to the customers, because at some point projects are not being assigned to companies because of price, but because of trust.
Mm. I love that. I think that's a great way to sort of come to a conclusion of the podcast, Alberto. One last thing, if you're someone obviously who spent a large portion of their career in construction, and AI has been developing out over time. For maybe a junior person who's coming into the industry that maybe is recently graduated or has a couple of years experience, what would your advice be to them? What should they focus on?
So keep learning the basics. This is not going to change over the time because you will need to rely on the basics in every single business that you are going to working with. Try to surf the AI wave as soon as possible
Mm-hmm.
because you will need to use that in your benefit, um, to be one of the leaders if you want to be one of the leaders. Okay, so it's still early ages for AI. Only 3 years, 3.5 maybe, since generative AI came out to the market. So it's not late, it's not early either, but they are not yet experts because no one has 5 10 years experience in working 100% with AI. So keep working with AI, understanding what is out there. Every single week, things change in the AI world. So don't get overwhelmed about it, but try to understand what has changed, why, what is the model that suits me the most, how can I build my own model? Because it may be that some people will be able to create their own company from scratch based on the information that is out there.
Well, as you said, there's many different ways of looking at it as well, and there's going to be incredible innovation that develops out over time. There's going to be new companies that come about, new entrepreneurs, new jobs that are going to maybe come onto the market, and maybe older ones drop off. So it's a new era that we're stepping into, and something that I'm quite excited about. Yes, I have some parts of me is fearful of in some ways, but I feel maybe quite lucky that I'm 34 and I've got a bit of experience, and I'm maybe not 21, 22 coming into the market, but there's going to be a rapid evolution, and it's exciting times ahead. Alberto, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. If there's anyone
Thanks
out
to
there
you.
that maybe wants to reach out to ask for advice, or maybe just to to connect, is the best way to reach you via LinkedIn or?
Yes, 100%. Go to LinkedIn and you have my contact in there. And yeah, I try to reply all the messages that I can, even if they are inboxes, because I'm one of those who understand that behind every single message, even if it's AI generated, there's an intention, there is work. So everyone needs to be respected for that. So yeah, just drop me a message and I will reply as soon as I can.
Alberto, it was phenomenal talking to you. I'm really interested to see how your career develops over time, and keep us in the loop. And I would love to maybe get you on again in the future to talk about more about the AI evolution, how that's impacting construction. So thank you for being part of the Takeoff podcast.
Thank you so much, Miggy. It has been a pleasure for me as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey.
Before you go today, guys, I'm just going to ask you to do one thing. Can you please go to Apple right now or Spotify right now and just give us those 5 stars? Hit that 5-star button. It makes such a difference you wouldn't believe. The whole idea of this show is to inspire, educate, and motivate our listeners. And we only do that if we're getting the best guests. The best guests want to see data. They want to see information. They want to see how many listeners that we get. And so all of this stuff is really, really important. So if you can just literally go and do that today, if you enjoy the show, just go and hit that 5-star button. It makes such a difference. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We're going to continue to push this out there every Monday. So if you can, hit that 5-star button. And if you can't, even share it with a friend. Go on to WhatsApp, flick it on to your crew. Guys, thank you so much for listening. On to next week.